The unexpected heroes. In a galaxy filled with advanced civilizations and powerful fleets, humans were often seen as the underdogs. Known for their small stature and seemingly weak technology, they were frequently underestimated by the galactic powers. To many, humans were nothing more than a minor species with little influence. This reputation had stuck with them for years, and it seemed impossible to shake it off. However, when a new and terrifying threat emerged, everything began to change. The Zogran Empire, a ruthless alien race known for their fierce and advanced war machines, began a massive invasion of the Galactic Coalition's core worlds. The Coalition's mighty armies were already engaged in battles across various fronts, leaving them with no resources to defend their most critical systems. As the situation grew desperate, the Coalition's high command faced a crucial decision. Their top fleets were tied up, and their most elite soldiers were spread thin. With no other options left, they were forced to consider the help of an unexpected group, human volunteers. These were not trained soldiers, but ordinary civilians from Earth who had offered their assistance in the past, only to be dismissed as irrelevant. At first, the Coalition leaders laughed at the idea. The thought of relying on cowardly humans seemed absurd. They were used to seeing humans as more interested in their own petty issues than in galactic conflicts. Yet, with no other viable options, they had no choice but to give these volunteers a chance. The human volunteers, led by a determined woman named Sarah Reynolds, were a diverse group. They included engineers, scientists, and even a few former military personnel who had left the service years ago. They had no advanced weaponry or high-tech armor, only their own determination and a few makeshift tools they had managed to prepare in a rush. Sarah was a former engineer who had spent years working on Earth's space programs. She was a calm and focused leader who believed in the potential of her team, despite the skepticism around them. Her team, though inexperienced in combat, was ready to prove their worth. They knew that if they did not step up, the Coalition's worlds would be lost. The humans were given a small base near the front lines. It was a humble setup, far from the grand warships and high-tech facilities of the Coalition. The base was equipped with some basic technology and limited resources. The humans set to work immediately, transforming their modest base into a center of operations. They used their engineering skills to modify old equipment and develop new tactics. The Coalition had provided minimal support, barely enough to sustain the humans. Yet this did not deter Sarah or her team. They worked tirelessly, setting up communication systems, building defensive structures, and preparing strategies for the battles ahead. Their efforts were driven by a deep sense of responsibility and a desire to change how they were viewed by the galaxy. Despite their hard work, the human team faced numerous challenges. They had to overcome technical issues, lack of resources, and the constant threat of alien attacks. Many of the Coalition soldiers viewed them with contempt, refusing to take their efforts seriously. The humans were often seen as a last resort, a stopgap measure, until more capable forces arrived. However, Sarah and her team remained focused. They believed that their unique perspective and resourcefulness could make a difference. They developed a plan that involved using guerrilla tactics and unconventional warfare, strategies that the Zogran Empire was not prepared for. Their goal was not just to fight, but to outthink and outmaneuver the enemy. As the Zogran fleet approached, the Coalition's main forces were still engaged elsewhere, and the human team had to act quickly. They set up traps and ambushes, using their knowledge of the local terrain to their advantage. They managed to delay the Zogran advance, buying crucial time for the Coalition to regroup and reinforce their defenses. The humans' actions did not go unnoticed. The Coalition's leadership, initially dismissive, began to see the value in the human volunteers' efforts. Their ability to adapt and innovate was starting to pay off. The Zogran Empire's advance was slowed, and the Coalition gained a much-needed breather. The battle was fierce, and the outcome was uncertain. The humans' unconventional tactics were proving effective, but they were still vastly outnumbered. Yet their courage and determination began to change the perception of those around them. They were no longer just a group of cowardly volunteers. They were emerging as unexpected heroes in a time of crisis. In the face of overwhelming odds, the humans held their ground. They showed that even those considered weak and unworthy could rise to the occasion. Their bravery and ingenuity started to inspire others, proving that true heroism could come from the most unlikely places. This was just the beginning of a remarkable story. As the conflict continued, the humans would have to face even greater challenges. But their initial successes were a testament to their strength and potential. They were ready to show the galaxy that they were more than just a footnote in the history of the cosmos. The real battle was about to begin, and these cowardly humans were ready to step up and prove their worth. The danger grows. The galaxy trembled as the Zogran Empire's invasion continued to unfold. The Coalition's core worlds, once considered the heart of their power, were now under serious threat. The Zograns, with their enormous warships and relentless aggression, had managed to push past the Coalition's defenses, and their advance showed no sign of slowing down. The Coalition's leaders, facing a dire situation, gathered in their war room. The room was filled with high-ranking officers and military strategists, all looking tense and worried. Maps and holographic displays covered the walls, showing the rapid progress of the Zogran fleet. The mood was somber as they discussed their dwindling options. "The situation is critical," General Hallstrom said, his voice heavy with concern. "We've lost contact with several key planets. Our main fleets are engaged and reinforcements are stretched thin. We need to find a solution quickly or risk losing everything." Amidst the chaos, an aide stepped forward with a report in hand. "General, we have received a communication from the human volunteers. They are requesting additional resources and support. They believe they have developed a plan that could help us turn the tide." The room erupted in murmurs of disbelief. The human volunteers, often dismissed as a last resort, were now making bold claims about a potential solution. The idea seemed almost laughable to many, given the humans' reputation and the limited resources they had been provided. "Why should we trust them?" Commander Renwick asked, his tone dripping with skepticism. "They're not trained soldiers. They're just civilians with makeshift equipment." Despite the doubts, the situation left the Coalition with few alternatives. The Zogran Empire was advancing too quickly, and the Coalition's defenses were crumbling. Reluctantly, General Hallstrom made the decision to provide the human team with a small but crucial supply of advanced equipment and additional support personnel. The human team, led by Sarah Reynolds, received the news with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. They knew that the additional resources would help, but they also understood that they had to deliver results quickly. Their small base, once a humble outpost, was now buzzing with activity as they prepared for the challenges ahead. Sarah gathered her team to discuss their new plan. "We've been given a chance to prove ourselves," she said. "We need to make the most of it. Our goal is to disrupt the Zogran supply lines and weaken their fleet. If we can create enough confusion, it will buy the Coalition time to regroup." The team was eager to get started. They divided their tasks, with some focusing on modifying the new equipment, while others began planning their operations. Their engineers worked tirelessly to integrate the advanced technology into their existing systems, while their strategists mapped out potential targets and escape routes. As the human team worked, the Zogran Empire continued its relentless assault. The alien fleet, composed of massive warships and heavily armed fighters, pressed deeper into Coalition territory. Cities fell and planetary defenses were overwhelmed. The Coalition's leadership struggled to maintain order and coordinate their efforts. The Coalition's high command, although still skeptical, began to take notice of the human team's progress. Reports of successful small-scale operations and effective use of their new equipment started to filter in. The Coalition's leaders were starting to see that the humans' unconventional methods might be making a difference. The human team executed their plan with precision. They targeted supply convoys and communication relays, causing significant disruption in the Zogran's logistical operations. Their hit-and-run tactics were proving effective, and the Zograns were beginning to struggle with their operations. Despite their success, the human team faced numerous challenges. The Zogran Empire, furious over the unexpected resistance, increased their efforts to hunt down the human operatives. The humans had to be constantly on the move, adapting to new threats and staying one step ahead of their pursuers. One of the most critical moments came when Sarah's team managed to capture a Zogran communications hub. The intelligence they gathered revealed the location of a major Zogran fleet assembly point. This information was vital for the coalition, as it provided a chance to strike a decisive blow against the enemy. With the new information, the coalition's leaders began to take the human team more seriously. They coordinated a large-scale operation to attack the Zogran fleet assembly point, using the intelligence provided by the humans. The battle was fierce, but the humans' actions had laid the groundwork for a significant victory. As the coalition forces launched their attack, the humans continued their efforts behind enemy lines. They executed daring missions to sabotage Zogran facilities and provide critical support to the coalition's main forces. Their bravery and resourcefulness were making a tangible impact on the conflict. The tide of the war began to shift, albeit slowly. The coalition's forces, now better informed and more coordinated, started to push back against the Zogran Empire. The humans' contributions were becoming increasingly evident, and their initial reputation as cowardly volunteers was being challenged. The danger was far from over, but the humans had proven themselves as valuable allies. Their actions were starting to change perceptions and build trust within the coalition. The story of the human volunteers was becoming one of resilience and determination, showing that even the most unlikely heroes could make a difference in the face of overwhelming odds. The coalition's leaders were beginning to understand that the human team was not just a last-minute solution, but a vital part of their strategy. The humans had stepped up when it mattered most, and their efforts were helping to turn the tide of the conflict. As the battle continued, it was clear that the story of these unexpected heroes was only just beginning. Training and strategy, as the Zogran Empire's assault on the coalition continued, the human volunteers, led by Sarah Reynolds, knew they had a crucial role to play. They had proven themselves capable of causing significant disruption to the enemy's plans, but now it was time to take their efforts to the next level. They needed to be well prepared to face the coming battles, and that meant intense training and careful strategizing. The small base, once a simple outpost, had been transformed into a hub of activity. With the new equipment and additional support personnel from the coalition, the human team set to work. Their immediate goal was to upgrade their skills and develop effective tactics that could turn the tide of the war. Sarah gathered her team in the main briefing room. The walls were lined with maps, holographic displays, and diagrams. The team members, though diverse in their backgrounds, shared a common goal. They were united by their desire to prove themselves and make a real difference in the conflict. "All right, team," Sarah began. "We've got some serious training ahead of us. We need to be ready for anything the Zograns throw at us. We've already shown that we can cause trouble for them, but now we need to be even more effective. We need to focus on honing our skills and perfecting our strategies." The team broke into smaller groups, each focusing on different aspects of their training. Some worked on mastering the new weapons and equipment, while others studied tactics and strategies. They had access to advanced simulation technology that allowed them to practice various combat scenarios in a safe environment. One group, led by Tom, a former military officer, focused on improving their marksmanship and hand-to-hand combat skills. Tom's experience was invaluable as he guided the team through drills and exercises. His goal was to turn the human volunteers into a well-coordinated fighting unit, capable of handling the challenges they would face in the field. Meanwhile, another group, led by Jenna, an experienced engineer, worked on integrating the new technology into their existing systems. They needed to ensure that their equipment was reliable and efficient. Jenna and her team spent long hours testing and refining the technology, making adjustments to improve performance and reliability. The third group, led by Mark, a former strategist, focused on developing and refining their tactical plans. Mark used the simulation technology to create realistic scenarios, allowing the team to practice their responses to various threats. They worked on everything from ambush tactics to evasive maneuvers, aiming to create strategies that would give them an edge over the Zograns. The training was grueling but essential. The human team pushed themselves to their limits, driven by a deep sense of responsibility and determination. They were no longer just fighting for survival. They were fighting to prove their worth and make a lasting impact on the conflict. As the days passed, the human team began to see the results of their hard work. They became more skilled and confident in their abilities. Their coordination improved, and their strategies became more refined. They were ready to face the challenges that lay ahead. One of the key aspects of their strategy was to use guerrilla tactics to disrupt the Zogran forces. The Zograns were known for their brute strength and overwhelming firepower, but they were not accustomed to dealing with small, agile units that could strike quickly and then disappear. The humans planned to exploit this weakness by using hit-and-run tactics, attacking vulnerable targets and then retreating before the Zograns could respond. Sarah's team also developed a plan to gather intelligence on the Zogran forces. They used their knowledge of the local terrain to set up reconnaissance missions, gathering valuable information on enemy movements and positions. This intelligence would be crucial in planning their operations and ensuring that their attacks were effective. The coalition's leadership began to take notice of the improvements in the human team. Reports from the field indicated that the humans were becoming more effective in their operations. Their ability to disrupt Zogran supply lines and sabotage key facilities was having a significant impact on the enemy's ability to wage war. One of the most important tests of their training came when the Zograns launched a new offensive. The coalition's main forces were still engaged in other battles, and the human team was once again called upon to hold the line. The humans were tasked with defending a critical supply depot that was essential for the coalition's efforts. The battle was fierce, and the humans faced overwhelming odds. But their training paid off. They used their guerrilla tactics to great effect, launching surprise attacks and using the terrain to their advantage. They managed to hold the depot and repel the Zogran forces, buying valuable time for the coalition to respond. The success of this mission was a turning point for the human team. Their effectiveness in battle demonstrated that their training and strategies were working. The coalition's leadership, once skeptical, now saw the humans as valuable allies in the fight against the Zograns. As the human team continued their operations, they built on their success. They refined their tactics, improved their equipment, and developed new strategies to counter the Zogran threat. Their training had transformed them from a group of underdogs into a formidable fighting force. The battle against the Zogran Empire was far from over, but the human team had proven that they were more than just a last-minute solution. They had become a crucial part of the coalition's efforts, showing that even the most unlikely heroes could rise to the challenge and make a significant impact. With their training complete and their strategies in place, the human team was ready for the next phase of the conflict. They knew that the battles ahead would be tough, but they were confident in their abilities. They had come a long way from their initial struggles, and they were prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The first battle. The time had finally come for the human volunteers to put their training to the test. The coalition's leaders had identified a critical opportunity to strike at the heart of the Zogran Empire's operations, and the human team, led by Sarah Reynolds, was given the responsibility of leading the first major offensive. The target was a key Zogran supply base located on a remote asteroid in the outer reaches of the galaxy. This base was crucial for the Zograns, as it supplied their frontline forces with weapons, fuel, and other essential resources. If the coalition could destroy or severely damage the base, it would disrupt the Zograns' ability to sustain their invasion. Sarah's team was both excited and anxious. They had trained extensively, but this was their first real combat mission. The stakes were high, and the success of the operation could significantly impact the outcome of the war. The team assembled in the briefing room, where the final details of the mission were outlined. Sarah stood at the front, her face determined. "All right, everyone, this is it. We've trained hard for this moment, and now it's time to show what we can do. Our objective is to infiltrate the Zogran supply base, plant explosives, and then get out before they can react. We'll be operating under the cover of darkness, using stealth and surprise to our advantage." The plan was straightforward, but risky. The team would approach the asteroid under the cover of a cloaked shuttle, land in a concealed area, and then move in on foot. They would have to navigate through the base's defenses, plant the explosives, and escape before the Zograns could mount a counterattack. As the team prepared for the mission, The tension was palpable. Each member went through their final checks, ensuring their equipment was ready and their strategies were clear. The new equipment they had been given, while advanced, was still unfamiliar, and they had to rely on their training to make the most of it. The shuttle launched from the base and made its way towards the asteroid. The journey was tense, with the crew remaining silent as they focused on their tasks. The asteroid came into view, and the team began their final preparations. The shuttle descended slowly, using the cover of asteroids and space debris to avoid detection. Sarah and her team, wearing their newly designed stealth suits, disembarked and moved towards the base. The suits helped them blend into the surroundings, making them nearly invisible to the enemy's sensors. As they approached the base, they encountered their first challenge, a series of security checkpoints and patrols. The Zograns had set up a network of sensors and guards to protect their vital installations. The human team had to move carefully, using their training to avoid detection. Tom, the former military officer, led the way, guiding the team through the security measures. His experience in navigating enemy defenses proved invaluable as he directed the team around sensors and past patrols. The team worked in silence, communicating through hand signals and quiet whispers. After a tense and cautious journey, they reached the central area of the supply base where the main storage facilities were located. The area was heavily guarded, with Zogran soldiers patrolling the perimeter. Sarah and her team had to be quick and precise. Jenna, the engineer, took the lead in setting up the explosives. She carefully placed the devices in strategic locations, ensuring that they would cause maximum damage to the base's critical infrastructure. Mark and the rest of the team provided cover, watching for any signs of detection and preparing for a quick escape. The explosives were set, and the team began their retreat. They moved back through the base, avoiding patrols and sensors with the same careful precision they had used on their way in. The tension was high, and every sound seemed amplified as they made their way to the shuttle. As they approached the shuttle, a loud explosion erupted behind them. The Zogran supply base was in chaos, with fire and debris filling the air. The humans had successfully planted the explosives and triggered them remotely, causing significant damage to the base. The team quickly boarded the shuttle and began their departure. The Zograns, now fully aware of the attack, launched a counteroffensive. Zogran fighters began to swarm the area, and the human shuttle had to navigate through a hail of enemy fire. Sarah piloted the shuttle with skill, using evasive maneuvers to avoid the Zogran fighters. The team's nerves were tested as they faced a barrage of enemy fire, but they managed to escape the immediate danger. They flew back to their base, their hearts pounding with adrenaline. When they finally arrived at their base, the team was met with cheers and congratulations. Their mission had been a success, and the coalition's leaders were impressed with their performance. The destruction of the Zogran supply base had dealt a significant blow to the enemy's operations, and the human team had proven their worth in the field. The success of the mission marked a turning point for the human volunteers. They had faced their first major battle and emerged victorious, showing that their training and preparation had paid off. Their bravery and effectiveness in combat had earned them the respect of the coalition and their peers. As the team debriefed and celebrated their success, they knew that this was just the beginning. The war against the Zogran Empire was far from over, and many more challenges lay ahead. But the first battle had demonstrated their capability and determination. They were no longer seen as mere volunteers, but as valuable and skilled allies in the fight against the Zograns. With renewed confidence and a sense of accomplishment, Sarah and her team prepared for the next phase of their mission. They knew that their journey was far from complete, but they were ready to face whatever came next. The battle had only just begun, and they were determined to see it through to the end. Gaining ground after the successful attack on the Zogran supply base, Sarah Reynolds and her team were riding a wave of newfound confidence. The operation had proven their abilities and delivered a significant blow to the Zograns. The coalition's leadership, once skeptical, now saw the human volunteers as a crucial asset in the war effort. The coalition's high command, encouraged by the recent success, decided to give Sarah's team a new mission. They were to build on their victory by taking advantage of the disruption they had caused. The goal was to further weaken the Zogran Empire by launching a series of targeted strikes against their remaining supply lines and key installations. The new plan involved multiple operations, each designed to capitalize on the confusion and disarray within the Zogran ranks. Sarah and her team were tasked with leading these operations, using their skills and experience to disrupt the enemy's operations and gain ground for the coalition. The team gathered in the briefing room to discuss their new assignments. Maps and holographic displays once again covered the walls, showing the locations of key Zogran targets. Sarah, her face lit by the glow of the projections, addressed her team. "We've got a real opportunity here," she said. "Our last mission did a lot of damage, but we need to keep the pressure on. We've identified several critical targets that we can hit to further weaken the Zograns. Our objective is to execute these missions with precision and speed, disrupting their operations and creating chaos." The team, energized by their recent success, eagerly prepared for their new mission. They knew that their previous victory had put them in a stronger position, but they also understood that the Zograns would not take their losses lightly. The enemy would likely be on high alert, making their tasks even more challenging. The first target was a Zogran fuel depot located on a remote moon. Fuel was a vital resource for the Zogran war machine, and disrupting their supply would impact their ability to conduct operations effectively. The team planned a stealthy approach, aiming to strike quickly and get out before the Zograns could respond. Sarah's team executed the plan flawlessly. They used their stealth suits and advanced equipment to avoid detection as they approached the depot. The operation was smooth, with Jenna setting up the explosives while Tom and Mark provided cover. The team successfully planted the charges and triggered them remotely, causing a massive explosion that destroyed the fuel depot. The attack on the fuel depot had a significant impact. Zogran convoys and ships were forced to halt their operations, leading to a temporary shortage of fuel for their forces. The disruption created a window of opportunity for the coalition to launch its own offensives and gain a strategic advantage. Encouraged by their success, the team moved on to the next target, a Zogran communications relay on a distant space station. The relay was crucial for coordinating Zogran operations, and disrupting it would hinder their ability to respond effectively to coalition movements. The mission required precise timing and coordination. The team needed to infiltrate the space station, disable the communications equipment, and escape before the Zograns could react. The operation was challenging, with tight security and limited time. Despite the difficulties, Sarah and her team executed the mission with skill. They bypassed security systems and disabled the communications relay, creating chaos within the Zogran command structure. The disruption caused delays and confusion, further hampering the Zograns' ability to coordinate their efforts. As the days went by, the team continued their series of targeted strikes. Each operation added to the mounting pressure on the Zogran Empire. The coalition began to gain ground, reclaiming lost territories and pushing back against the enemy. The human team's success was not without its challenges. The Zograns, enraged by the repeated attacks, intensified their efforts to hunt down the human operatives. The team had to stay vigilant, constantly adapting to new threats and maintaining their cover. During one mission, the team encountered a Zogran ambush. The enemy had set up a trap, expecting the humans to strike a specific target. The situation was dire, and the team had to fight their way out while under heavy fire. Tom, drawing on his military experience, led the team through the ambush. They used their training and tactics to outmaneuver the Zograns, eventually escaping the trap. The experience was a stark reminder of the risks they faced, but it also strengthened their resolve. The success of their operations began to shift the tide of the war. The Zograns, once confident and aggressive, were now on the defensive. The coalition's leadership recognized the human team's contributions and their impact on the overall strategy. The human team's actions were becoming legendary within the coalition. Their bravery and effectiveness were inspiring other forces and boosting morale. They were no longer seen as mere volunteers, but as heroes in their own right. As the team prepared for their next mission, Sarah reflected on their journey. They had come a long way from their initial struggles. Their hard work, dedication, and teamwork had paid off, and they were making a real difference in the war effort. The battle was far from over, and the team knew that they faced more challenges ahead. But they were ready to face whatever came their way. Their recent successes had proven their abilities and solidified their place in the fight against the Zogrons. With renewed determination and confidence, Sarah and her team continued their operations. They were committed to gaining more ground, disrupting the Zogron Empire, and supporting the Coalition's efforts. The war was still ongoing, but the human team was determined to see it through to the end. The final battle, the Coalition's campaign against the Zogron Empire, had been a series of victories, thanks largely to Sarah Reynolds and her team. After their successful strikes on Zogron supply lines and installations, the tide of the war had begun to turn. Now, the Coalition was preparing for what would be the decisive confrontation with the Zogrons. The final battle was set to take place on Vorta Prime, a heavily fortified Zogran stronghold. This planet was strategically important to the Zogrons, housing their main command center and a significant portion of their remaining military forces. Taking Vorta Prime would be a massive blow to the Zogrons and could potentially end the war in favor of the Coalition. The atmosphere in the Coalition briefing room was tense as Sarah and her team gathered for the final briefing. The room was filled with maps, holographic projections, and a buzz of anticipation. Sarah, now a seasoned leader, stood at the front, her face reflecting the seriousness of the mission. "Everyone, this is it," Sarah began, addressing her team. "Vorta Prime is heavily defended, but we've planned for this. Our objective is to breach their defenses, disable their command center, and force their surrender. We've been through a lot to get here, and this is our chance to end the war." The plan was ambitious. The team would need to infiltrate Vorta Prime's defenses, neutralize key targets, and coordinate with Coalition forces to launch a full-scale assault. The operation required precision and speed, as the Zogrons would be prepared for an attack. As the team prepared for the final battle, the Coalition mobilized its forces for a massive offensive. Ships, troops, and equipment were assembled for the assault on Vorta Prime. The air was filled with a mix of determination and anxiety as the Coalition forces geared up for what was expected to be a fierce conflict. The attack began with a coordinated space assault, with Coalition ships launching a barrage of missiles and energy beams at the Zogran defenses. The objective was to weaken the planetary shield and create a breach for ground forces to land. Sarah and her team watched from their shuttle as the battle raged in space. The team's role was critical. They were to lead a strike force onto the planet's surface and penetrate the Zogran command center. The shuttle descended through the chaos, landing in a designated drop zone. The team, equipped with advanced weapons and armor, disembarked and began their advance towards the command center. The initial phase of the operation went smoothly. The team used their stealth technology to bypass the outer defenses and avoid detection. They moved quickly, taking advantage of the confusion caused by the space assault. Their objective was to reach the command center, located deep within a heavily fortified area. As they approached the command center, the team encountered fierce resistance. Zogran soldiers, alerted by the space assault, were defending their position with determination. The team had to fight their way through the enemy forces, using their training and tactical skills to gain the upper hand. The battle on the ground was intense. Sarah led her team with calm precision, coordinating their movements and ensuring they stayed focused on their objective. They faced numerous obstacles, including automated turrets and Zogran reinforcements, but they pushed forward with relentless determination. After a series of fierce engagements, the team reached the outer perimeter of the command center. The final push required careful planning and execution. They had to disable the command center's security systems and plant explosives to destroy it from within. Jenna, the team's engineer, took charge of disabling the security systems. She worked quickly, bypassing the complex network of locks and alarms while the rest of the team provided cover. Tom and Mark took out enemy patrols, ensuring that Jenna could work without interruption. With the security systems down, the team moved inside the command center. The interior was a maze of corridors and control rooms, filled with Zogran officers and staff. The team had to navigate through the facility, avoiding or neutralizing threats as they went. The final confrontation occurred in the central control room. The team encountered a large group of Zogran officers who were attempting to coordinate a defense against the Coalition's assault. A fierce battle erupted as Sarah and her team fought their way through the officers, determined to reach their objective. Jenna planted the explosives in key locations within the control room. With the charges set, the team prepared to make their escape. The battle in the control room was brutal, with both sides fighting fiercely. The team managed to push through, reaching the extraction point where their shuttle was waiting. As they boarded the shuttle, the explosives in the command center detonated, causing a massive explosion that rocked the facility. The destruction was extensive, with the command center collapsing in a cloud of smoke and debris. The Zogran forces, now leaderless and disorganized, began to retreat. The Coalition forces on the surface pressed their advantage, pushing the remaining Zogran troops back and securing key positions. The final battle had shifted in favor of the Coalition, thanks to the successful operation led by Sarah and her team. As the team returned to their base, the mood was one of exhaustion and elation. They had completed their mission and dealt a decisive blow to the Zograns. The Coalition's victory at Vorta Prime marked the beginning of the end of the war. The team's bravery and effectiveness had been instrumental in the success of the operation. They had faced numerous challenges and emerged victorious, proving their worth as heroes in the fight against the Zograns. The war was not yet completely over, but the defeat of the Zogran Command Center marked a turning point. The Coalition's forces would now have the upper hand, and the Zograns were on the defensive. As Sarah and her team celebrated their success, they knew that their journey was far from over. The final battle had been a significant milestone, but there were still challenges ahead. However, with their recent accomplishments and newfound confidence, they were ready to face whatever came next. The end of the war was in sight, and they were determined to see it through to the end. A new beginning. The final battle on Vorta Prime had changed everything. The Coalition's victory was a significant turning point in the war against the Zogran Empire. The Zograns were in retreat, their command structure shattered, and their forces disorganized. The Coalition's triumph marked the beginning of a new chapter, one that promised peace and rebuilding after years of conflict. In the aftermath of the battle, Sarah Reynolds and her team returned to their base, greeted as heroes. The mood was one of celebration and relief. The Coalition's leaders and soldiers alike were eager to recognize the contributions of Sarah's team. Their bravery and skill had been crucial in securing the victory. The base was abuzz with activity. Troops and officers moved about, preparing for the next steps in the campaign. Supplies were being organized and plans were being made for the transition from war to reconstruction. Amidst the chaos, Sarah and her team found time to rest and reflect on their achievements. Sarah sat in her quarters, reviewing the mission reports and reflecting on the journey that had brought her and her team to this point. They had started as a group of unlikely volunteers, often underestimated and overlooked. Yet, through their determination and courage, they had become central figures in the Coalition's success. The door to her quarters opened, and Jenna, Tom, and Mark entered. They looked tired but happy, their faces reflecting the pride of their accomplishments. "Hey, Sarah," Jenna said, her voice filled with a mix of exhaustion and satisfaction. "I can't believe we did it. It feels surreal." Sarah looked up and smiled. "I know what you mean. It's been a long road, but we made it. Our hard work has paid off." Tom nodded, his expression serious but content. "The Coalition is in a strong position now. We've given them the edge they needed. It's up to them to keep it going." Mark, ever the optimist, added, "And we've shown everyone what we're capable of. We've proven that even those who seem unlikely can make a huge difference." As they spoke, the base's commander, General Harris, entered the room. He was a tall, imposing figure with a stern face softened by a rare smile. "Congratulations, everyone. Your bravery and skill have turned the tide of the war." Sarah and her team stood at attention, acknowledging the general's words. "Thank you, sir," Sarah replied. "We couldn't have done it without the support of the Coalition and the hard work of everyone involved." General Harris nodded. "You've earned a well-deserved rest. However, the work is not over. The Coalition is beginning the process of rebuilding and establishing peace. Your skills and experience will be invaluable in this new phase." The general's words marked a shift in focus. The war was ending, and the coalition needed to transition from fighting to rebuilding. Sarah and her team were to play a role in this transition, helping to ensure a smooth and successful recovery. Over the next few weeks, Sarah and her team became involved in the reconstruction efforts. They helped coordinate the distribution of supplies, assisted in the rebuilding of damaged infrastructure, and worked to establish a sense of normalcy in the war-torn regions. Their experience in the field made them invaluable assets in this new phase of the campaign. They used their skills to navigate the complexities of post-war recovery, ensuring that the coalition's plans were implemented effectively. One of their key tasks was to assist in the reintegration of former Zogran soldiers and civilians. Many of them were now refugees or prisoners, and finding a way to help them transition to a peaceful existence was a priority. The team worked closely with humanitarian organizations and negotiators to facilitate this process. As they worked on these tasks, Sarah and her team encountered a range of challenges. The process of rebuilding was not straightforward. There were political tensions, lingering resentments, and logistical difficulties. However, their commitment to the mission and their ability to adapt to new situations helped them navigate these obstacles. One day, while inspecting a newly rebuilt community center, Sarah received a message from General Harris. The general wanted to meet with her and her team for a special briefing. The meeting was held in the base's conference room, where the general outlined the next steps for the coalition.